morning everyone. In today's lecture we will learn about resonance. There basically we have two types of resonance. One is series resonance and another one is parallel resonance. And when we are talking about resonance, the main circuits which we are going to use are your RLC circuit. So it's a resistance there, an inductor there, and a capacitor there. Okay. Due to the presence of R, the resonance in the circuit exists. So in electrical circuit, resonance is a phenomenon at which the response of the circuit is maximum at a given frequency. So at a particular frequency, the response of the circuit, if it's giving you the maximum response, maybe it's current voltage, then it is the resonance condition, and that for particular frequency is resonant frequency. So the frequency at which we are getting maximum output is resonance frequency, or you can say it's resonant frequency. As we know that inductor and capacitor both have the capability to store energy. So the energy stored across the inductor is usually the magnetic energy, and the energy stored in across the capacitor is capacitive energy, or you can say it's electrical energy or electrostatic energy, you can say. So suppose at any time t, LC circuit is connected to a voltage source. So we have this circuit, we have a voltage source which is a variable of t, and it is connected to this circuit which has an inductor and a capacitor at any time t. So when it is connected to L and C, the current will start flowing through the circuit, and inductive energy will start getting stored across the inductor. From this inductive energy, the capacitor will start charging also. So let's say at time t equals to 0, inductor at t equals to store energy from voltage source, and capacitor charges through inductor. Even when the voltage source is removed, inductor charges capacitor. Now at that time t equals to 0, we are removing the voltage source and we are connecting this to this side using a switch. So we have a switch which connected to the voltage source, and we have a switch which is removing it from the source. Now if we consider that that there is no resistance in the circuit, so what will happen is that the inductor has some stored energy with the help of which the capacitor is getting charged. So we can say that there will be a flow of energy from inductor to capacitor, and it will be constant if there are no resistive losses. So now the inductor will charge the capacitor. When the capacitor will charge fully, it will start transferring the energy to the inductor. So this is an indefinite process if there is no resistance in the circuit, but ideally it's not possible like that. All the circuits which we are using, they have resistive losses, so due to which this energy transfer gets reduces with time. Okay, so what we are doing here is that inductor is charging the capacitor, then capacitor is charging the inductor when it gets fully charged. So the energy is transferred from the rate of transfer of energy depends upon the value of L and C. For an ideal circuit, this transfer of energy will continue forever, as I told you, and we will see oscillations which are constant in nature. But in actual circuits have resistive losses and leads to energy dissipation, and the oscillation dies with time. Therefore, to maintain the oscillation, we need to supply some energy. So we need to supply some external source which can keep those oscillations constant. So now we are considering a circuit which has a resistance, and it is connected to a combination of inductor and capacitor, and we are applying an external energy, or you can say external source of voltage, which is equals to V naught sine omega t. So what we learn from above is that L and C produces oscillations, and R has tendency to reduce the oscillations because due to the resistive losses there is an energy dissipation in the circuit. So the energy dissipates with time, so we need to have some external energy which can overcome those losses. Now, application of Vt equals to V naught sine omega t ensures it. When omega is equals to less, Vt is less. You can see here. When omega is high, Vt is high. But as we know that sine omega t is always less than 1, whether it's on positive side or negative side. So we can say sine omega t is equals to plus minus 1. So that's the maximum value sine omega t can attain, even if you are increasing the value of omega. So we can say that it increases with Vt up to a certain value of omega and then decreases as sine omega t is less than 1. Or we can say mode of sine omega t less than 1. So the plot will be something like that, that as we are increasing the angular frequency, the current will increase, and after attaining a maximum value it start falling. That particular instant when it's attaining the maximum value of current in the circuit is your resonant frequency, which we are going to know about now as we go on in the lecture. So the graph of I versus omega will be like above, and as we know that inductive reactance is XL equals to omega into L, and capacitive reactance is XC equals to 1 divided by omega C. Now if you see this at omega equals to 0, or you can say at DC, if you are applying a DC value of voltage supply, then XL will be 0 and XC will be infinite. So the C will act as an open circuit and L will act as a short circuit. At omega is equals to infinite, XC will be equals to 0 and XL will be equals to infinite. In both cases no current, so it needs to be a flows through the circuit. If we use these two conditions as low frequencies close to 0, the values which are close to 0, and high frequencies which are close to infinite, we can say that no or minimum current flows through the circuit at low frequencies and high frequencies. So you can see at low frequencies the current is ideally equals to 0, but we can make the curve more precise to show that there is some current in the circuit. So the current start increases as you go close to the resonant frequency, and as you start going away from the resonant frequency, the current start decreasing. What is the impedance of the circuit? We have a R, L and C in series, so we can say it is equals to R plus j omega L plus 1 divided by j omega C. If you multiply j here and j on the numerator, so we can say j square is equals to minus 1, so we can write R plus j omega L minus j divided by omega C. I have taken j common here. If you need to find out the magnitude of the impedance, then it will be square of real part and square of imaginary part and under root of it. So it will be R square plus omega L minus 1 divided by omega C whole square. As we know, V equals to IZ and I is equals to then V divided by Z. Now for I to be maximum, Z must be minimum. And what will be the minimum value you can attain? That this terms becomes equals to 0. So we can say omega L minus 1 upon omega C, or 1 divided by omega C is equals to 0. So omega square is equals to 1 divided by LC. Omega is equals to 1 divided by root LC. And if you need to find the resonant frequency, then it will be omega equals to 2 pi f. So f will be equals to 1 divided by 2 pi root LC. Now capacitance is tunable. When I'm saying tunable, you can vary the value of resistance and is used at the receiver to change the frequency or channel. So now what's the use of this kind of circuit at in communication systems? It's basically used at the receiver, and so suppose we have 4 different users, so all the different users will be using a different set of frequencies, or you can say they will be using a different channel. So suppose I want to hear what user 1 is sending the information at the receiver, then I will tune it to that particular frequency, and the capacitor is used to tune it to that frequency. So by varying the value of C here, you can change F here. So in this way, the different channels are available at the transmitter and receiver. So it's not something like they they create wires to set the channels. In wireless medium, you use different set of frequencies to hear what others are sending the information to you, if you want to hear that information. As C decreases, frequency increases, and vice versa. Now what's the effect of R1, R on the circuit? So for instance, I consider three resistances, R1, R2 and R3, and you can see that R3 is maximum and R1 is minimum. And I plotted three different waveforms. When we have R1, R2 is this one, and R3 is this one. So you can see that clearly that for R3 the graph is more spreaded, and the resonant frequency is more at higher value. It provides the higher value of current. So R must be minimum for better tuning channel or better selectivity of the channel. So if you want to actually access a particular channel, then you need your resistance of the circuit to be minimum. Why it needs to be minimum? Because Z is equals to R. When this is equals to 0, then Z equals to R. So when Z is less, I will be high. That's why for a better selectivity of the channel, your resistance should be. Now two parameters are widely used for selectivity. First one is quality factor Q, which is equals to 2 pi into maximum energy stored in the circuit divided by energy dissipated in the circuit. And another one is bandwidth. So now the thing is that quality factor is that how much good is your channel when you are using this using a particular channel for communication. So the channel should be providing you better quality of service. So for that, the quality factor should be as high as possible for you. Bandwidth is the range of the frequencies for which you will be able to access the channel. So suppose let's consider a radio station. A radio station is using a channel frequency equals to, let's say, 91.2. So if I am able to hear what the channel is sending the information, or like the songs or anything, like let's say at 91.4 and 91 also, then the bandwidth is 91.0 to 91.4. So within this range, you will be able to hear what program is getting broadcasted out on that particular channel. So that will be the bandwidth, and that 91.2 in this case will be your resonant frequency, which is exactly between both sides, means 91.4 and 91. And these two frequencies, at these two frequencies, your current will be I max divided by root 2. Okay, and it's basically a kind of band pass filter. I'll explain as we go on. As the above value of resistance in the circuit increases, circuit will have less tendency to oscillate. The resonant curve gets wider, as I told you in the previous curve. Bandwidth is defined as the difference between the minus 3 dB frequencies in the circuit or difference between the half power frequencies. I told you that the gain is usually defined in terms of dB. So suppose this is my maximum gain. So if I go on this side, the gain start decreasing. If I go on this side, then the gain will start decreasing. So these 2 points which are in line to each other, are the points where the gain of the circuit decreases by minus 3 dB. I'm talking in decibels. Okay, so these 2 points, if I plot them on the x-axis, then these two are my frequencies, or you can say they are my cutoff frequencies. Okay, so that's our difference between the half power frequencies. F1 is the lower cutoff frequency and F2 is upper cutoff frequencies, and the difference between these two frequencies, F2 minus F1, is equals to bandwidth, or W2 minus W1 is equals to bandwidth of the circuit. Now if you need to find the value of omega 1, then omega 1, as we know that at this point the current is equals to I max divided by root 2. I assume that the current at this point is I1. So using the formula for impedance and potential, we can say V divided by root of R square plus omega L 1L minus 1 upon omega 1C whole square. Squaring both sides, we get I1 square is equals to V square divided by square of this term, so the root will go away. Then as we know that this is equals to I max by root 2, so we can write it I square max by 2. Why? Because we square it. So we can say that it is equals to V square upon 2R. How it is coming equals to 2R? You need to get 2R here, so it will be R square, and this is also equals to R square, then it will be 2R. Now comparing denominators, we get R square will be then equals to omega 1L minus 1 upon omega C square, or if we say that omega 1L minus 1 upon omega C is equals to plus minus R. One thing we must know, that the frequency can never be negative. First thing is that the frequencies cannot be negative. The difference between the frequencies can be negative, but even though we'll usually take the positive value, but I'll explain you now. So if you find for omega 2, the formula will come out similar. The only difference will be omega 2. So you need to try it at home yourself. Now from the figure you can see that omega 1 is less than omega r and omega 2 is greater than omega r. So we can say that omega 1 is the lower frequency, and then we can say omega 1L is lower than omega 1C. So we can say this is lower than this. Why? Because if we are dividing by a smaller number, then it becomes, let's say I say omega 1 is 0.2, so this will be 0.2 L, and if L and C are of almost similar ranges, then this will be 0.2 something, and this will be 1 divided by 0.2, so it will be 1 divided by 0.2 is 5. So this factor will be greater than this factor, so this will be a negative here. So we can say that omega 1L minus 1 upon omega C is equals to negative equals to minus R. When omega 2 frequency is used, omega 2L is higher than 1 upon omega 2C, so this will be positive. So we can say omega 2L minus 1 upon omega 2, 1 divided by omega 2C is equals to R. Now if we simplify these two equations, I hope you know to simplify them. So you will simplify, then it will be similar like this. You need to create them first of all in the form of quadratic equation, and then you have to use the formula of quadratic equation. So this omega 1 will be equals to this. Omega 1 is all, I told you that frequencies are always positive, so we will use a positive sign from here, so it will be this, and then omega 2 will be this. So when you will subtract, then it will be equals to R divided by L. Then omega 1 to omega 1 into omega 2 will be equals to A minus B into A plus B, and using this formula A square minus B square, then it will be equals to 1 upon LC, or you can say omega square R. So if the cutoff frequencies are given to you, then you can easily find out the resonant frequency. It will be the under root of their multiplication. So if you need to find the quality factor using this, quality factor is equals to 2 pi into maximum energy stored divided by energy dissipated. So maximum energy stored can be across an inductor or a capacitor, because first of all the inductor will store the energy and then it will start transferring energy to the capacitor. So when the supply is there or supply is not there, so whatever the maximum energy is stored, it can be across your inductor or it can be across capacitor. So we can say 2 pi I square XL. Energy dissipated will be across only resistance, so it will be I square R, and then I square will cancel. I think I've missed the omega L term, 2 pi term here. Okay, so it will be 2 pi can be used, so it will be XL divided by R, XC divided by R, and then it will be equals to omega L, as XL is equals to omega L and 1 upon omega CR. So you need to use the term 2 pi with it also. So it will be Q equals to 1 upon R, this root of LC, or you can say Q is equals to omega R divided by bandwidth.